Reddit, what's your anyways, we're married now story? Met a girl online about 20 years ago one summer after college. Found out we live in nearby towns. So decided to get together. Go out on a few dates. Drive by local preschool. Me. Hey. That's where I went to preschool. Huh? That's where I went to preschool. That day we find a preschool class photo. There we are 2 feet from each other. A few months later, my dad finds some old footage of a Christmas play our preschool class put on. We're standing right next to each other. When we first met, his first words to me were "I'm gonna wife you." And I scoffed. Anyways, we're married now. This happened to me but the guy said, "Oh, I'd put a baby in ya" after I mentioned something about wanting kids. And I rolled my eyes. 2.5 years later, our 6-week-old son is asleep in a bassinet beside me right now. A man of his word. I moved to China to teach middle school. Was introduced to another teacher while we were still in the Beijing airport. So anyway, we're married now and have adopted 2 kids from Korea. Your story sounds so much like the thing with Ross and Julie from Friends lol. In 2nd grade, I was voted class favorite. Why was this ever a thing? Horrible idea for kids' self-esteem, along with a weird fella who I had trouble believing anyone even voted for because he was quite reserved and bland. In the 5th grade I remember the same guy getting called to the front of the class to write his answer on the board. He was awkward and dressed accordingly. The girl seated behind me very quietly commented "MMMM. His booty looked like it'd be eating his pants." Only I heard this. But it was a humorously accurate observation. After 5th grade I never saw him heard from him again until we were 21. He showed up at my house to purchase a vehicle we had for sale after my dad passed exactly 1 month earlier. I only recognized him after my mom wrote his name on a receipt for purchasing the car. I reminded him of our time as class favorite and my mom made a show of breaking out the yearbooks. Anyways, we're happily married now. Our first date was a disaster of epic proportions. Ended with me yelling at her. And her paying the check while I was in the latrine just so she could get out of there quicker. Anyways, we're married now. Over 8 years strong. 2 kids. I can't see my life without this beautiful, crazy person. And I like to think she feels the same way. My uncle met my aunt while shitting on the side of the road drunk while his friends laughed hysterically. She was walking somewhere that I don't remember. He then stared at her for a solid minute then passed out. She started laughing and they started dating 2 days later. Anyways now they're married. And that, son, is why drinking is good for you. Double quote. Hooked up from Craigslist. Anyway, we're married now. Substitute Yahoo. Personals for Craigslist and that would be us. Met for a hookup then spent the next few months trying to pretend that we weren't falling for each other. Didn't work. Been married 17 years now. I swiped right on someone who was the exact opposite of my type. Short. Big teeth. Not ambitious. Really skinny. He was leaving town the morning after our date. He was a good half hour late to the date. Muttered softly. And was bad with eye contact. I only went on the date because I'd had really fked up stuff happen to me and I just wanted one date with someone that wasn't going to lead to anything just to feel normal. Anyway we just had our first kid. A friend of my brother's had a drinking problem in college. One day he crashed his truck in the side of the road and a man walked up and said, "You okay?" "Yep." "You drunk?" "Yep, get in my car." "I'll get in here and tell the cops I lost control." The guy got in the man's car, got in the back seat, and sat next to his future wife. Edit. The stranger's daughter is now his wife. The drummer for a band I was in told his girlfriend at the time that she wasn't allowed to talk to me because she would just try and FCK me anyways. His now ex-girlfriend and I are married with 4 kids. Can't say he wasn't wrong though. Evidence shows you 2 ficked at least 4 times. So my brother's college roommate called me for legal advice because his crazy ex was being super crazy. Anyway, we're married now 7 years come November. 2 kids and a house. We met in the McDonald's we both work at. At the time we both had boyfriends and then both came out as lesbians together. They had us in the first half, not gonna lie. I met my husband when I got a new job at a grocery store and the guy from the deli came up and yelled at me for hanging up on customers when I couldn't figure out the phone transfer process. He was that guy from the deli, and anyway we're married now. I literally dread when anyone calls my work and asks to be transferred. I rarely do it and I don't think I've ever done it successfully. I give them the right number first and say, and now I'll try to transfer you. Call that number. If I accidentally hang up, pretty sure I hang up every time. So when my wife were dating, she got pneumonia and didn't have health insurance. Asked her to elope to get on my insurance, and 2 weeks later we're married. This girl ordered chicken fingers from me at Fuddruckers. Anyways, we're married now. Co-worker's boyfriend's brother came up to stay with them. We have to have you out for dinner with him. You have a lot in common. He likes nerdy things too. You're not allowed to date him though. Double quote. Definitely dated and married him. Co-worker and now brother-in-law broke up around the time we got engaged. He's better without her. We worked together in college. I knew she liked me. But I had a cool guy reputation at work and didn't want to ruin it by dating someone there who could let everyone know I'm an emotional mess. One day my battery dies while my roommates are out of town and she offers to drive me to get a new car battery. But first you have to buy me dinner, she said. That was our first date. Our second date I stood her up so she wouldn't be so damn cute and flirty with me. Anyways, we have been married 11 years this month. Shortly after we met he asked me, do you trust me? I said, laughed and said no. Anyhow, we're married now. Sounds like my story. I got a random text that said, can you keep a secret? To which I replied honestly, no. Turns out my mechanic stole my number off a service sheet, which could get him fired. Anyways, we're married now. I stared at her chest the first time I met her. She noticed. I was friend zoned. Anyways, now we are married and have a kid and it's wonderful. I met this girl. She started calling me. Then every time I went out to eat or to a movie she showed up. Sometimes I would come home from work and she would be waiting outside my place with dinner. The last time she came over she never left. Sure, she leaves for a bit, but comes right back. Anyways, I said, why the FCK not, and we are married now. I had a cold and went on a date to an Irish pub. I was eating bangers and mash and had the urge to cough. I tried to keep my mouth shut, but just wound up spraying his face with gravy and mashed potatoes through my pursed lips. I was still coughing, so I took a sip of my drink to soothe my throat. It was beer. The bubbles tickled my throat more. I also spit that all over his face. He stared at me in disgusted horror as gravy, mashed potatoes and beer dripped down his face onto his shirt. I laughed and laughed and laughed, making my apologies sound very insincere. Anyways, we're married now. Thank goodness our booth had high backs so only he suffered. So we went downtown in college to celebrate a friend's 21st birthday. My date for the evening had a few too many cocktails and ended up getting kicked out of the bar because she used the utility closet as a bathroom. I left to walk her home. But anyways, we're marrying next month. Oh kids, wait until you find out what your mom was like in college. So, really, don't think we haven't heard it all. Done it all. Double quote. Whoa. Mom. You did what? Double quote. Congrats. Colon. Close bracket. The first time I really hung out with this guy he threw up all over me. Anyways, we're married now. Well, same though. Took my now fiance to a Chinese place that has metes for $5. He threw up all over the bathroom of the place while I sang karaoke. I insisted he wasn't driving his car home. I walked him to my car, with his pants falling off. Anyways, he threw up and got vom beans in my tape deck. And we're engaged now. I'm still mad about the tape deck. Though I have a different car now. I still had so many days I couldn't play my tapes. For clarification, he had a burrito for lunch, so that's why it was straight beans in my car. He doesn't drink much anymore, ha 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 ha. On our first date he tried showing off by drifting down a gravel road and tore through a ranch fence. Anyway, we're married now. My dad threw a paper airplane at the back of my mom's head in college. She told him to grow up. Anyways, they've been married now for over 36 years. My S.O. and I have been together since 2012. Marriage was never really a huge concern of ours. In 2016 I found a large lump in my breast. I didn't have insurance. He did. Anyways, we're married now. I'm fine. Just have fibrocystic breast disease, which is common and non-threatening. My great-grandparents met because my great-grandfather was delivering the newspaper to my great-grandmother's house and her brother, though he was trespassing, and tried shooting at him. My great-grandmother felt bad and bought him lunch. They were together for over 75 years and lived a very happy life. B.M.E. 6 years old. Trying to hang out with my older brother. He's in high school and has a female friend over. But I wanna play Zelda, dang it. So I pester him and his friend until they play with me. And his friend responds by hog-tying me and putting me in a closet, playfully. Fast forward 18 years. And she and I are dating and have a house together. Still annoying. Still get tied up. But I have been out of the closet for years, lol. So years ago one of my friends met a trans woman for the first time and for some reason made a point of telling me that he is totally cool with treating trans women like any other woman. But couldn't see himself getting together with one because he is not into dicks. You know? Double quote. Anyway, I came out and started transitioning a while after that. One thing led to another and we've been together for 4 years at this point. When I was 13, I met a girl, Debbie, at summer camp. She talked about her horses and attending the big interstate fair every year with her 4-H group. On my 13th birthday I went to the fair and looked Debbie up. She agreed to go to the carnival with me, but wasn't all that interested. I can't blame her. 13-year-old me was a dweeb. She brought along her annoying girlfriend Renee to keep me from getting too fresh. Which worked. I was determined to get Debbie alone. Not that I knew exactly why. So I took the girls on the tip-top ride. Renee got sick, got off the ride, and puked. Debbie and Renee used that as an excuse to split. And I never saw Debbie again. 3 years later, a beautiful new girl with long black hair moved out on my school bus line. I was immediately interested and began a much smoother conversation. We went out a couple weeks later and went to a carnival. She took me on the tip-top and I puked. That girl was Renee. We were both 3 years older. And anyways, we're married now for 41 years. When I was younger, my best friend made an offhand comment of, if you were a girl, I'd want to date you. I think it was meant as a joke at the time. One transition later, he was true to his word. Anyways, we're married now. I was in 8th grade and she was a year younger. I had a thing with her best friend. Was walking home with said best friend when she joined us. Absolutely lost it inside when I saw her. Looked so beautiful and cute walking home with her violin in hand. Her parents had a rule about dating till she was 16. They came around eventually. Not for a few tough years. Today was 8 years together. Known and been hooked on each other for 11. Getting married May of 2022. I still wake up every day and realize how absolutely lucky I am to have her. P.S. She is out of my league. A friend of mine was secretly playing Pokemon at high school when he found a picnicker with the same name as me. He found that funny, so he whispered it to another mutual friend who was sitting next to me. Then the guy on the other side said, "What's so funny?" And they said, "Look, it's a character named for the Fuzzabunny one." And he said who? So later in the week during a lunch period, they introduced him to me. Anyway, we're married now. He also insists I include the line a friend of ours set a table on fire at the wedding. But anyway, we're married now because he thinks that's funnier. Went to a football game to meet my good friend's fiance. Anyways, we're married with 3 kids now. To clarify, I'm married to his ex-fiance, not my good friend. Close bracket. We couldn't stand each other. I was dating their best friend, so we kept having to interact. Eventually broke up with the friend for other reasons but stayed close. Kept having to interact with a person I couldn't stand. For years. We kinda grew on each other. Anyways, we're married now. And friend was in the wedding party. I was a niche porn artist. He was a niche porn writer. Anyways, we're married now. And still produce and enjoy lots of niche porn media. I was 11 years old. Talking to this girl I just met walking to lunch at school. She was cool. We liked some of the same stuff. This jock walks up and asks, "What? Are you two dating?" We both kind of looked at him confused and said no. Anyways, we're married now. I had mentioned to my boss that I'm into white boys. In the next round of new hires he said to me, "Hey, I hired you a white boy." My husband and I lived in neighboring apartment buildings for over a year. We got groceries at the same store. We went to the same gas station. We even worked the same hours at 2 different mental hospitals. We probably crossed paths more than once. Eventually we met on a dating site. Our 6th anniversary is in a couple weeks. Met my best friend online. He was at my previous wedding. Helped me move when I separated from my ex-husband. And then when I got divorced asked me to move to a different state to live with him. Anyways, we are engaged now, hope it's close enough. My ex-husband a very long time ago. His friend got ordained online and we were visiting him at his house. He jokingly went through the process in his living room with my ex and I. I didn't really realize it until my ex was like, "So I guess we're married now." Looking back, I should have ran for the hills. I was working at a video game shop. And he was hired to DJ the midnight release of a game I didn't care for. He comes in. Waits in the giant line of people finalizing their pre-order before midnight. When he gets to the register, I ask him if he's here for the premiere. But he says he wouldn't be caught dead playing that game. And proceeds to purchase a different, older game I'll later find out he already has. He asks me when I finish my shift. And to swing by the DJ table when I'm off. I do indeed swing by. And now we've been married going on 5 years with 2 cats and a recently purchased home. He proposed by sticking the ring inside the case of the game he bought that night. My ex-wife was always unreasonably paranoid that I was into her best friend. When we divorced, her last message was a request that I don't romantically pursue said friend. Of course I agreed to such a reasonable request. We've been together about 5 years now and going strong. Moved to a different city for a job a few months after getting divorced. Didn't want to start dating first thing in a new city. Especially after initially coping with a bunch of one-night stands in the old city. So first night in the new city, I get bored and download Bumble. I saw the first profile. Thought about it. And said screw it. I get one swipe and swipes right. Thinking if it was no match, I'd spend 6 months focusing on myself. So, that one right swipe. Anyways, we're married now. Very happily too. Close bracket. 24 years ago I was giving an internet friend dating advice regarding the new guy she was with. In a different country than myself. They didn't work out and eventually broke up. The guy and I vaguely knew each other online and started chatting after their breakup. So anyways, we're married now. We met in elementary school. I transferred schools before high school and we lost touch. Found out we had enrolled at the same university. In the same program. Once university classes started. Anyways, we're married now. Mine's more sentimental than funny. But I first met her 17 years ago. I thought she was beautiful and I loved her personality. I never made any moves because I thought she was out of my league. But we were good friends. One of the few legitimately platonic relationships I've had with a woman. No significant events for over 8 years. Other than a few moments when it felt like there was something in the air. Anyway. We're married now and we have twins now. I fell down when I went sledding with some of my friends. I open my eyes and see a guy looking down at me. Next thing you know he sticks his finger in my nose. Anyways. We've been dating 2 years now. I, a woman, met a nice man at an LGBT event for our law school. I saw him around campus once afterwards and waved at him. Seemingly out of the blue I get a direct message from him asking me out, which confused me because I assumed he was gay. Anyways. We're married now. Reached the church earlier than expected. Was about to go out and have a smoke but stopped and just prayed casually. Like talk to God. Mostly about why all the girls I meet are non-compatible. Long-term relationship was out of question. Suddenly, I saw a vision of a girl walking towards the altar and just looked at the cross and said, why not her? She looks nice. We ended up matching in website online. Turns out her dad and I had been talking all along in the church but didn't know they were family. Got married to her in less than 6 months from the date of my casual prayer. No one. Even my wife believes this. Don't care. Anyway. We're married now.